One of the most unusual aircraft that I ever jump-seated on was Russia's Ilyushin Il-86. It was 1996 and I had 2 flights on that aircraft, one from Madrid to Moscow, Russia, and I returned a couple weeks later to Miami. The Ilyushin Il-86 was Russia's answer to the Boeing 747. It had a range of some 5,000 kilometers or just over 3,000 miles. That's not very far by today's standards, but of course, back then in the mid-60s, turbojet engines were the norm. Turbofan engines had not been incorporated yet. The aircraft had a pilot, a co-pilot, a flight engineer, and a navigator. The flight engineer had his own throttles, and I watched him use them on both takeoffs. Another thing that was different was both pilots had their hands on the flight controls on every takeoff, but neither of them had their hands on the throttles. When I chatted with the navigator, he told me that he had been working at Aeroflot for 27 years. He was the only one that had ever turned the heading knob or the omni-bearing selectors on the aircraft. The pilots had never, ever touched those controls, nor were they allowed to. In addition, the navigator was in charge of all autopilot functions. The pilot and co-pilot had never touched those controls either. You may have noticed another unusual feature. The aircraft had built-in air stairs. It actually had 3. They would open from the bottom of the aircraft next to the baggage loading section. This precluded the need for air stairs wherever they flew. But it was also different because every time I got on the aircraft and I went off the aircraft, we went from the bottom and then climbed some stairs to the upper deck where the passenger seats were. Another unusual characteristic about the aircraft was all the writing in the cockpit was in acrylic. The altimeter was in meters and I could not interpret anything in the cockpit.